That son of a bitch did it. So I just got done watching Superman, and I think that this is going to be more of a conversation video than a well edited video. And I apologize ahead of time if I seem not really there. I'm there. I've never walked out of a movie feeling this way before. Feel like this was a moment that was really rare, and I thought that in the best case scenario, if I turned out to love this movie, what that looked like, or at least what I thought that looked like, was me getting on camera, yelling at you, telling you how awesome and amazing it was, and getting all loud and rowdy and channeling some of that Matt Ramos energy. When in all honesty, I really can't. I'm in such awe and shock, and it feels really good to tell you just how much I loved this movie. I loved this movie. I walked out of this movie feeling like it hit every point on my list of criteria that I thought that this movie needed to hit to be a success to me. And it did, honestly, with flying colors. If you have followed my videos surrounding this hype and building up for this movie, you'll know that I was very, very critical from the start. James Gunn, of the fact that I didn't think that he was the guy who should be writing this movie, who should be directing this movie. And very early on, I will admit that it came from a place of not really being a fan of the way that James Gunn does things. I didn't like the second Suicide Squad movie, and I felt like his humor was just a little bit too much for what I thought a Superman movie should be. And I honestly, especially in the beginning, was very upset at the way that Henry Cavill was treated. So very early on, I definitely came from a biased place. But as the marketing continued and ramped up and we got more trailers and TV spots, I couldn't help myself but to be excited. I love Superman. When it comes to the bigger IPs that I know and that I love, my favorite heroes are Superman, Spider-Man, not really a hero, but Anakin. From those three IPs, Superman, especially within the DCU, is my favorite hero. And I love Superman for what he represents. And to me, that is everything that is good in humanity. I feel like Superman is a character that we all really strive to be like, and maybe want to be like, as far as his outlook of humanity and his ability to always see the good in people and thinking that people deserve a second chance. He just represents, I feel, everything that is good about humanity. And that's why I love the character. And I think that James Gunn did a amazing job at putting that at the forefront. Really getting into, I guess, the review part of this movie is hopeful. It's strong. It's heartfelt. The dynamics between the characters, Lois and Clark, Lex and Clark, Pa Kent and Clark, even the ragtag justice gang, all felt very organic. It felt like there was genuine chemistry there. The topics of discussion between these characters was absolutely amazing and heartfelt and really deep hitting. The overall tone of this movie is very consistent in being hopeful and getting back up when you are struggling or when you are knocked down. The movie opens up with Superman being knocked down. And before I get any further, I'm gonna do my best, at least in this first area, to avoid spoilers. I'm gonna most likely get into spoilers in the back half of the video, getting into the characters of the movie. I'm not gonna start off with Superman, because Superman, there is a lot to say about him, but the people surrounding him just feel so much like their character from the comics, consistent with a lot of other iterations of them, all while being done up and maybe modernized in a way that makes them relevant, but they still feel true to who they are as their character. Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan, was absolutely phenomenal as Lois. She is sharp. She's very sure of herself. She's very strong. She's very capable of her journalism. She's a very capable journalist. She's very determined, and she's snarky and feisty in all ways. And she is unwilling to sacrifice truth and justice for anyone, including Clark. You saw the scene with her interviewing Clark as Superman in the trailers that had came out, and that scene was just done so well. And it really showcased how strong she holds her values to her, how determined she is to get the truth out to the people and to do really good journalism. The Justice Gang, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific were all fantastic additions to this movie. There are some people out there that are saying that this movie was very jumpy, went all over the place. And while I'm not going to say that I don't understand that take, because the movie does move very fast at points and it could feel like it is jumbling some stuff around, but I just think that they were handled so well and never took the spotlight away from Clark, but added to the overall story, added to the movie, and were so enjoyable. Guy Gardner is hilarious in almost everything that comes out of his mouth, yet he still has this very intimidating poise and vibe to him that lets you know that he's a real threat, that he really does mean business, even though he is the joking asshole. Hot Girl may be the least explored character of the Justice Gang, but Isabella Merced does a great job at portraying her when she is there. She has a few funny moments too, going back and forth with Guy Gardner. Not one time did I find myself rolling my eyes at the jokes that are exchanged between them. Mr. Terrific is an absolute standout of this movie, has a lot of time to shine. And for being such a stoic character, for being such a motionless, dare I say, Spock-like type of character, he's funny. And him bouncing things off of Clark and their interactions and the things that they say to each other was just so enjoyable. Lex, oh my Lord, Nicholas Hoult delivers maybe one of the best versions of Lex Luthor we have ever gotten. I have told you guys multiple times that Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville is my favorite Lex. I've also told you, and you probably have seen for yourself, that James Gunn has told Michael Rosenbaum that he thinks he is the best Lex. So I figured that there was going to be some inspiration from Michael Rosenbaum's Lex to Nicholas Hoult. And man, it is so apparent in this movie that that is the case, but not at all in a rip-off way. Nicholas Hoult, I feel like he takes the Michael Rosenbaum character more so from like season 6 and season 7 when Lex is really evil and dials that menacing and terrifying villainous characteristic all the way up. There are moments in this movie where there is no sugarcoating. There is no, oh, what if maybe he is good? No, this Lex is villainous. This Lex is cold and ruthless and will stop at nothing to achieve his goals, which is very much so in line with the Lex Luthor character. The way that Nicholas Hoult delivers these lines, the way that he gets emotional in a lot of ways and is so determined to take out Superman is almost terrifying to watch. His conversations with Superman are enjoyable, but suspenseful and are the exact kind of interactions you would expect from Superman and Lex Luthor. And then just talking about Clark and Superman and the way that David Cornsweet portrayed these two characters was just phenomenal. One of the issues that I had with Henry Cavill, and make no mistake about it, I love Henry Cavill as Superman, but one of the issues that I had was his portrayal of Clark. I feel like Henry Cavill's Clark Kent was similar to Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker in the sense that they were just a little bit too cool. I feel like David Cornsweet is the perfect middle ground between Henry's Clark and Christopher Reeve and his Clark. He is not as clumsy and as much of a klutz as Christopher Reeve, but he's not really the cool guy either. You could definitely tell that he's this kind of nerdy character and this like corny character, but I feel like this Clark is still very sure of himself. And to be honest with you, I don't mind that. I don't mind that this version, we don't have the cliche babbling idiot as our Clark. And that's not to diss on Chris Reeve, because I believe what Chris Reeve did for the time was perfect. He is my definitive Superman, and I love the switch between Chris Reeve's Clark and his Superman. Two very different style of characters, but for being in 2025 and putting this new spin on it, I think was executed in a masterful way. David's Superman is so much like our classic and heroic and hopeful Superman. And that is almost above all else what I wanted to see in this movie. There are moments where he does have this very stoic persona, very confident, very strong-willed. He holds close to his values, and it shows in almost every scene that he's in. Superman saves so many people, so many living things, animals, people, that you really see the humanity, the love and care that he has for Earth in his character. He is definitely still the cheesy Boy Scout with a lot of back and forth between him and Guy Gardner, him and Mr. Terrific. It's very obvious that he doesn't do things the way that they do, hence the reason why he's not a part of the Justice Gang. We're going to talk about that later. But he's a fantastic Superman who is very human in so many ways. I think that this Superman is so much more human than the other versions of Superman that we got. And I wasn't sure about that because that was something that a lot of leakers, a lot of rumors said, was that Gunn was really trying, James Gunn even said it, that he was really trying to make this Superman more human. And I think he nailed it and made it work to where I don't really have anything bad to say about this portrayal. I got a couple gripes, but we'll get there. Crypto was something that I was very worried about when it came to this movie. I just thought it was going to be a way for James Gunn to insert his over-the-top humor, and it was going to be silly and dumb. If I'm being honest, I thought it was going to be dumb. It is not. Crypto is a blast on the screen, has a lot of time to shine, and just elevates the movie in a way that I didn't think that a dog could do for a movie. And especially as someone who loves dogs, who has owned dogs, who has dogs, it hit a level, a small level. If Crypto wasn't in the movie, I don't think I would feel either way about it. But the fact that he is in the movie just added an element of joy for me and for my lady. And he was just, I got nothing bad to say about Crypto. This movie, as I said, is very strong. It's very hopeful. It has extremely heavy action in this movie, which I am so thankful for. The action is done phenomenally. The fight scenes that we get, the last fight scene of the movie is amazing. The deep moments of this movie really do hit. I will say, as far as the humor goes, some of what I was concerned about is definitely in this movie. You definitely see a lot of James Gunn's humor. But I think Grace Randolph had it right in her review where she said that when Gunn gets out of his way, the emotion thrives. There are a couple ridiculous moments that happen in this movie, but nothing that took me out of it, nothing that ruined the movie for me. A couple over-the-top humorous scenes. There is a handstand moment in the Fortress of Solitude. If you know what I'm talking about, or if you end up seeing it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I thought that was ridiculous. I kind of rolled my eyes at that one. But when James Gunn took a moment to dial it back, to really focus on the emotion, on the heart, and the seriousness of a moment, it worked amazing, so well. I was engaged the entire way through. I was smiling the entire way through this movie. And mind you, at this point, I've been awake almost probably 36 hours. And I not one time was worried about falling asleep. I was completely engaged in this movie and invested into the story. Another part of this, there are a lot of reviews that call this a very comic book movie. And while I feel like that is really true, there are a lot of scenes in this movie that are just, you could definitely see these things written and drawn on a panel. But I think that this is an easy, accessible movie to normies, to newcomers, because even when you have all of these different characters that are in the mix here, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, Metamorpho, you don't need to know who they are. The movie will show you. I am also pretty grateful that this was not an origin story. We start off 3 years into Clark's career as Superman. And it works just fine. You don't need to see that he came from Krypton to Earth. You don't need to see him growing up and figuring out his powers. You don't need a 10-minute scene showing Krypton blow up. It's the same idea with Batman. How many times are we going to see Bruce and Martha get shot in the side alley of the theater? This movie jumps right into it from the very start, lets you know exactly what kind of movie we're about to have, and is extremely sure of itself the entire way through. The spectacle of this movie is ridiculous. It is huge. It's visually stimulating, this movie. The score that is used, the John Williams score with a little bit of a mix in it, is used so perfectly throughout this movie in almost all moments. It feels very, very classic Superman, and yet it does tackle a lot of modern visuals, ideals. It's a good blend. And with all that said, I do have a few gripes, and I think that we can talk about them. I'm going to talk about them as spoiler free as possible, and then we'll get into some spoilers. I'll make sure I put up a warning for you guys, though. One of my concerns about this movie is even though I feel Clark and Superman are done perfectly, there are a few moments where I'm not going to say that it didn't work for me for this movie, but I want to see Clark grow out of later. One of that being that I do think that he's a bit too emotional. A lot of that is showcased in footage that you've probably already seen. Like I mentioned earlier, the interview that he had with Lois. Also, the conversation that he has with Lex about crypto. I do feel that we are seeing a younger Clark, a younger Superman, who honestly at this point is used to everybody loving him, at least most people. And when the backlash turns on him, he's not really prepared for what that feels like. And so he reacts impulsively in a lot of ways. And while I don't mind it because as I said, like that we made him a little bit more human than other iterations, I do want to see him grow out of that. And I want him to be a little bit more professional, I guess we can say, more stoic in his conversation, which I do think that we get a glimpse of at the end of the movie, showing a little bit of growth. Some of the humor that's in here, I do think is a bit over the top and double down on. Again, not anything that pulled me out of the movie or made me hate the movie or even made me hate this scene. But there are a lot of areas in here within the humor that you could see James Gunn's flavor coming through. And while I think that he did a decent job at dialing back with that on a lot of scenes, I think we could do just a little bit more. Metamorpho, for me, is kind of a nothing character. He has some cool moments, but ultimately nowhere near as big of a draw as any of the other characters that are in this movie. Jimmy Olsen was another character that I'm not too sure how to feel about yet. While I like the character, I like the actor, I like even the way that he was portrayed, but he didn't so much feel like the lowest puppy dog following nerdy kind of guy. Honestly, he felt a lot more like a ladies' man in this one, which was weird. But again, even the way that that is done, I like the guy. You know what I'm saying? It was done in a way that I was sitting there like, this ain't so much the Jimmy Olsen that I know, but I kind of like it. The CGI in this movie, I think for the most part is done really well. You saw Baby Joe in the trailer. Honestly, I think that is the worst CGI of the movie. Not ever. I don't think it was horrifying. I definitely don't think that the CGI in this movie is anywhere near the level of CGI that The Flash had. But I'm telling you that to let you know that that is the worst of the CGI in this movie. And if that didn't bother you, then you're good. A lot of the CGI and effects that were used in this movie, I think were done really well. Although, correct me if I'm wrong when you see it, the fish lens part where Clark is flying that we saw in that TV spot and everybody got on him and James Gunn tried to say that none of us know anything about lenses. I believe later on he said that that part was taken out of the film. It wasn't. It's still there and looks kind of the same to me. I could be tripping. But honestly, other than that, the CGI was fine. It was fine. It worked really well. Didn't pull me out. Felt immersed. Felt part of the world. I have nothing else really bad to say about it. Lastly, this isn't so much a negative for me because I feel like it worked within the storyline that we were given. But I think that a lot of people may take hardship with this one. The movie, in my opinion, is very political, especially in that first part of the film. I think that a lot of comparisons are going to be made between Superman and what's going on today. And I don't know if that was done by design because this movie had been written years ago and this was an idea years ago. And maybe it was just bad timing, which is unfortunate. But personally, for me, I don't think that it's enough to kill anything for me. I feel like it worked very well within the story that they were trying to tell. I feel like it worked perfect for showcasing the kind of character that Clark as Superman is. And by the end of it all, I don't look back with any ill will or ill feelings towards what James Gunn did with that. But I do feel like a lot of people will. With all that being said, I do want to jump into just a few spoilers. One of these spoilers is another one that I think people may not like. It's going to be controversial, but I want to talk about it because I think that it is very interesting. So you care about spoilers, now is your moment. Get up on out of here. Come back when you see the movie and we'll talk about it. One of the elements, one of the biggest elements, I'm going to just talk about it straight off the bat. If you have followed the leaks and the rumors, you might have heard that James Gunn in this version decided to make Kryptonians conquerors, essentially being bad guys who conquer worlds, taking a little bit of inspiration from Invincible. And I'm gonna just keep it real with you. It's true. It's true. That is the reason why people turn on Clark, because it comes out that Jor-El wants Clark to, in his words, lord over the people of Earth. And that's something that we haven't really seen done with Superman. And when I first heard the leaks and I first heard the rumors, I was open to it. I wasn't sure how it was going to hit me. It was something that I had to see for myself and see if it felt okay. And coming out of the theater, seeing it, I kind of love it, honestly. I think that in a way it shows, or rather, I think that it speaks even more to the type of person that Clark is. When he realizes that he's not who he thought he was, doesn't come from the type of people he thought he did, and yet still chooses to do the right thing, still chooses to push through, despite feeling like he had been lied to his entire life. And I like it. I like the way that it was executed. However, I see the future, and I think a lot of people might be pretty upset about it. And honestly, in that regard, I don't know if I could blame you. That is definitely not the Superman origin that we know and have grown to love. And I could see an argument being made of, that's not my Superman. That's not who he's supposed to be. But I think that it was a bold choice that James Gunn took to try and, change things up a little bit. It's not an original idea. Obviously, like I said before, we got Invincible. I think The Boys even channels into that energy just a little bit. But for being a Superman movie, it's new. And I think that it works. I don't know how much of that is going to be explored later. I think Supergirl has a lot of potential to explore that topic and how she views Earthlings, and I think that that'll be interesting. But for what we got here in this movie, I think it worked just fine. I also want to talk about one thing that I think is extremely stupid that they threw in the movie, but nothing that ruined anything for me. Kind of from some leaks that we got as time has progressed, we had a lot of different leaks that came out to kind of make the movie seem like it was going to be kind of BS, right? One of those being the monkey bots that Lex has to start shit on social media. And when I heard that leak for the first time, I thought that that was the dumbest thing that you could do. Why would you do that? And I'm gonna tell you, since we're talking a little bit of spoilers, I'm gonna tell you that that's in the movie. That's absolutely in the movie. But it's such a split second within the whole movie that it came and it went. I rolled my eyes for a quick minute and then it was over. And it did nothing to hurt the movie, in my opinion. Definitely stupid. One of those moments that kind of shows the James Gunn of it all, but it didn't bother me. Another thing that really pissed me off in the leaks was this idea of the Justice Gang, them being called the Justice Gang. I hated that. Justice Gang sounds so stupid, but in this movie, it is a constant gag between the three that's not the name. Guy Gardner wants it to be the name. Hot Girl and Mr. Terrific are just not feeling it. They think it's stupid, and that's like the constant gag between them. And the minute that they started clowning on the name and Guy Gardner was getting all upset, I sat back and I was like, nah, this works. This is cool, because it's not going to be their name. Stuff like that, man. And you know what? This ain't really spoilers, but there were a few moments like that where I thought something was going to happen because of a picture that we got or leaks that we got, footage that we got, and it ended up being something completely different. I won't spoil this part, but the very first look that we got of Superman in the suit, putting on his boots with that beam thing messing up the city behind him, thought that was a horrible first look. And a lot of the criticism going around, including from myself, was why the hell is he sitting there putting on his boots when the city needs saving behind him? I did not understand the context or whatever. What they do with that scene in this movie, it kind of just shoved my foot in my mouth, dude. There are moments like that where what I thought was going to happen because of images that were shown beforehand, honestly, I feel like is a big FU from James Gunn to all of us who prejudged. And I don't mean to say that in a bad way. James Gunn is trying to shit in our cereal, but it just made me sit back like, you crafty mother. bro. And it was really interesting to see all of that flesh out. This was such an important movie, not just for Warner Brothers, but for the comic book movie genre altogether. With comic book movie fatigue being an absolute real thing, I have felt it. I know people that I've talked to have said that they have felt it. And I think that it shows in the box office. So the fact that it is a very real thing, it put a lot of pressure on Superman. And I'm not necessarily sure if this movie is going to save the genre, but it has a shot because this movie, despite a few flaws, despite a few things that I thought did not work, the movie was fantastic. My lady, who is not a Superman fan, honestly, she doesn't even really like the character. I looked over to my right at a couple scenes in this movie, and she had her hand over her mouth, shocked at what she was watching. And when we left the theater and we started talking about it, she gave the movie a 10 out of 10. This is somebody who really does not know anything about Superman, who does not prefer him as a character, and thinks that he's just OP for no reason, and came out of the theater loving the movie. And then someone like me, who is a bit more knowledgeable about Superman, I'm not know all things about Superman, but my favorite DC character, man. And I loved this movie. James Gunn pulled this off, and I think that we have to give flowers to him. Credit where credit is due. He did it. Now, that does not mean that I think he should be the guy to write and direct every movie that comes out in the DCU. And from my understanding, he will not be. And I think that that's great. I think whether or not this was just luck or skill, which, let's be honest, he is a competent filmmaker. He is a good filmmaker, and he did his thing with this one, man. He was able to deliver a heartfelt, deep-hitting, strong, sometimes too humorous Superman movie that deserves to be in the conversation, at the very least, of the best comic book movies ever. It may not be your favorite. It may not be the best to you, but I definitely think that this movie holds weight and is worthy enough to be in that conversation. If this movie is what sets the tone for what the DCU will be, if this movie is any indication of what the DCU might be moving forward, I think that we are in for a wild and fun time. And I can't wait to see what's next. I believe as far as films go, I think Supergirl is the next movie next year. And I'm excited as hell for that. This movie throws not a lot, but this movie throws some Easter eggs towards what that could be like. And I think that we're in for a good time. And honestly, I don't really have much else to say about it. I loved this movie. I'm definitely going to see it again because I want to see it in IMAX. I didn't get to see it in IMAX this time. Actually, I've never seen an IMAX movie. It's going to change. I'm going to see this one in IMAX. But I think that this was a phenomenal movie. And I hope that it does well in the box office. If you are a fan of Superman, if you are a fan of James Gunn, if you want this movie to do well, go see it. Show up, support this movie, and be part of the reason that it thrives. Because if nobody shows up to this movie and yet everybody's complaining about how people are just hating on this movie, it's your fault. Plain and simple, it's your fault. Show up. But I'm gonna leave it there, man. I'm gonna be thinking about this movie until I fall asleep, honestly. But I'm gonna throw it off to you guys. The movie officially comes out, well, technically Friday, but Thursday. If you're gonna go see it, let me know. If you were able to see the Amazon Prime early screening, let me know what you thought. Please try to keep the comments spoiler free. Unless you're watching this video on Friday, Saturday, and past, then fine. Pretty sure this is my longest video on the channel, so I'm gonna leave it there. Man, I'm out. Y'all be smooth, and boy, I'm geeked up.